The first time Jack Kelling heard of the legend of the well, he scoffed. An old stone well built in a dark recess of the world, a magic well? It looks like a mouth that, if given the chance, would consume your soul without hesitation, but its magic might be worth the sacrifice. For on the summer solstice, if the moon is full, the old well comes alive and answers one question. The answer is always right. People use the well to win bets, to predict their futures, to fall in love. Even while Jack dismissed it all as superstition, he searched for this well, and after 10 years and a divorce, he found it. He waited for another year, for the summer solstice and the full moon to coincide. He timed it perfectly, so that he would stand before the well with his camera capturing all. He would debunk this myth, and in doing so, he would become famous. But as the well came alive, as he watched old stone turn into flesh, as he smelled its breath of moss and earth, he uttered these words, "Is this really happening?" "Yes," the well said, and went back to sleep. In his shock, Jack forgot to turn on his camera.
Hi folks, Stuart Jaffe here. Hope you liked that story. Now let's get to today's question. I understand why you're confused, because there is a huge range of what a self-published book could cost, literally from zero to thousands of dollars, depending on what you want to accomplish. And that's the first thing you have to decide is, what do you want to accomplish? Are you looking at this as a hobby, in which case I would tell you to do it as for as little as possible, because it's a hobby, or is this a business? And if it's a business, then you need to add on a new hat. Right now, as a writer, you wear your writer's hat. Money comes to you for creating work. But as a publisher, you now have to invest into your business. And in this case, invest into creating a product, which is the book. That means you have to think about packaging, the covers, whether if it's print, cover front, back, and spine, or a cover for an ebook. You have to think about editing, all these different aspects. As a business owner, you want to reduce those costs as much as possible. So anything you can do on your own, you should do. For example, one of the costs is formatting, is taking the raw file of your book and turning it into either the right format for a print-on-demand book or the right ebook format. This is very easy to do once you know how. There is a bit of a learning curve that you have to overcome, but do it. Put in the work. It'll take you a little while, and then you're golden, and you save yourself $100, $200, whatever people want to charge you. Another cost is editing. Now, there are several levels of editing. There's what's called developmental editing, copy editing, and proofreading. Those are the three basic ones. Some people break them down even more. Developmental editing is what you think of as an editor, somebody who's talking to you about pacing and character and the book as a whole. Copy editing is grammar, punctuation, consistency, making sure that a character has blue eyes on page 1, doesn't suddenly have brown eyes on page 135, all that kind of stuff. And then proofreading is proofreading, spelling, and so forth. The most expensive is developmental editing. To get a good qualified developmental editor can run at $800 to $1,000, but the poor man's version of it, and frankly it's the version I use, is beta reading. I have 3 trusted readers. They read it, they give me their feedback, and the detail they give me back is equivalent to one really qualified developmental editor. It works, and I don't have a problem with it. Copy editing. Again, the price range, I've seen it as low as about $100, and I've seen it run high as $800. If you've got somebody who can do it for you at no cost, great. If you can't, then I just go with somebody that you're just going to have to keep going around until you find somebody who seems to do the job the way you want it. And the same goes for proofreading. Proofreading is pretty cheap. Usually at the most it'll cost you about $100 for an average 80,000, 90,000 word novel. But I have my own people. We just go through it, and frankly, we're coming up with the same percentage of mistakes getting through that the proofreaders are doing. So I'm not really worried about that. But I have those people. If you don't have those people, then you have to pay for it. Same goes then, finally, for cover art. Cover art, for me, is my most expensive thing because I can't draw. If I did my covers, they'd all be stick figures. And I pay good money for really talented people to do it. So I've paid, on average, probably $500 for a cover. The cheapest cover I think I've ever done was done at a friend rate for about $50, and the most expensive covers were about $1,000. But for me, that's where the bulk of the money should go. And I do my own layouts because I have that skill, so I don't have to pay extra to get the text done. Some artists will charge you more for that, some won't. So at the end of the day, my suggestion is you shouldn't be paying much more than $1,000 per book, and if the lower you can get that, the better. And other consideration you have to think about is on the back end, how much do you think this is going to pull in? For example, if you're writing in the romance genre, that's the largest genre there is. Chances are, even if you don't have the best cover, you're still going to be making money. So you may not have to spend as much for an artist. If you're in an extremely narrow niche, you may not want to spend a lot of money because there aren't that many people to buy the books. So you have to think about these things, about who you're trying to attract and how much of an audience there is for it. There's a lot to consider. The last part of it you asked was about promotion, and that's really a different question. But the short end is that there's not that much you have to spend money for on promotion. I wouldn't recommend it. As always, if you have a question for me, leave it down there in those comments. Please subscribe, share, like, YouTube stuff your way to whatever makes you happy.